Granada Community Services District on Monday, February 1st. My name is Patrick Tierney. I'm the temporary chair of PAC. And first thing that we will do this evening is have a roll call. So if I can have each one of the PAC members introduce themselves, that would get us started. Fran, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, I'm Fran Pollard.
Susanna Cantrell.
Richard Barker.
Paul Kelsch.
All right,
here's Michelle. She's
Yeah,
coming
so
in right now. There she is.
we have a quorum. Oh, hello, Michelle. Why don't you introduce yourself?
She's muted.
You're muted, Michelle.
Still muted.
Hello.
There she is.
Hi,
All right, there
Michelle.
she is. All right, so everybody is here and accounted for. That's great. Thank you for your attendance. Delia Comito is general manager. And thank you, Delia, for recording the meeting.
No problem.
All right, so we have a full agenda tonight, but before we get started on our action agenda, this is an opportunity for anyone from the public to make a comment about anything that is not on the agenda. So if anyone is on this Zoom call would like to mention anything that is not on one of the items on the agenda, this is a good time to do so. Barbara Dye, go right ahead.
Yes, hi, I'm Barbara Dye, on the board of GCSD. I wanted to say that due to the regulations of the Brown Act, which we are careful about conforming to, only 2 board members will participate in this meeting, but it is possible that several other board members will want to hear the presentation that you are about to have. So just wanted to let the public know that we are very aware of the regulations of the Brown Act and will be conforming to them. Thank you.
Does anybody from the public want to bring up any topic? Okay, I see a hand raised. Chris.
How are you, folks? Good evening. Checking to make sure everybody can hear.
Yes.
Yeah, Chris, why don't you give us your name, please?
I'm Chris Rogers, a resident of El Granada. I live across the street from the Burnham Strip. I'm calling in to voice concern about the beginnings of the wet weather storage project in the Burnham Strip. And the reason I'm concerned about it is because there is a seasonal wetland that's located within the fenced off construction area. It's a feature that's pretty plainly evident when you look by, if you have a experience at these, recognizing these kinds of things. And I also think that it's a feature that's likely been documented recently by the GCSD's biological consultant, Biomass. I understand there's a draft report that the GCSD has that hasn't been finalized or released to the public, but I know the folks at Biomass and I'm familiar with their work, and I don't think it's possible that they would have overlooked this feature. I've done the research and looked at the 2009 EIR that covered the entirety of the wet weather project in all of its phases. And that document fails to recognize the existence of this seasonal wetland, which I need to add is not only a regulated jurisdictional feature, but it's also ESHA within the local coastal program. So as a result of it being overlooked by the EIR for the wet weather storage program, the coastal development permit that was issued for this phase of the project also fails to acknowledge its existence. The contractor who was meeting on the site today told me that they had no idea that that was an issue. I've had conversations with Barbara, and email has been copied to other folks. not only at GCSD, but also at SAM to try to raise this issue. My concern is related to the Parks Commission also, because if it's a feature that is sensitive and ought to be protected with as a coastal resource, but it gets obliterated as a result of a wet weather storage program, then the Parks project is going to have no opportunity to avoid it, to mitigate it, to preserve it, to enhance it, any of the other things that it ought to be doing within the context of the Burnham Park project. So I've been trying to raise this issue. I feel like it's kind of getting swept under the rug. There's been acknowledgement of what I'm saying, but there's no movement toward doing anything about it. It needs to be, the feature needs to be isolated and protected within the context of the construction project that's going to be starting in 2 days. So that is my comment, and happy to answer any questions if there's I can clarify any of what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any other comments from the public?
Patrick, let me
Yes.
may I make a brief comment?
Sure.
The SAM project, Chris knows perfectly well that his concerns have been considered and will be addressed in some way or another. I have confidence that all of the work that's going to be done on the property will preserve the important environmental features, and I'm confident that this very important project, which provides protection to this community, will be able, hopefully, to start on time and be completed in a way that I'm confident will protect the environmental values of the property.
Okay.
And we really shouldn't discuss it further because it's an item, it's not legal to discuss, to have long discussions of items that are not on the agenda. But I did want to make that comment, so I hope that was okay.
Thank you, Barbara. Any other comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, I think we'll go.
I have my hand raised.
Okay, sorry, Jill, didn't see it.
That's okay, I understand. So I also live by the Burnham Strip and walk by this area. And it seems to me that an easy fix would be just to put some orange construction fencing around the edge of that seasonal wetland. It's pretty well defined and easy to do. And I would hate to have it impacted and then later we got to deal with whatever, fines or delay in work, construction delays. I mean, who's going to be responsible? It's going to be the people of El Granada who are paying into the sanitary district, right? So I encourage you just to, deal with it and move on. Thank you.
Thank you,
They were
Jill.
both Jill, who is married to Chris, who just spoke. They were informed today that there will be protection for that area pending further environmental review of the property. So
What do you mean by this pending environmental review? Is there going to be another survey out there? Or
I
what?
will be giving you giving an update on Burnham Park on the agenda when it is appropriate.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any more hands raised. Does anybody wish to make a comment from the public? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the agenda. And the first item on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes from way back November 11th, 2020. Those minutes are available for viewing on the district website. Does anyone on the Parks Advisory Committee wish to make any changes to those minutes or be willing to approve the minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move
Yes.
to approve the minutes.
I second that.
Okay, motion by Fran, approved by Paul. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, let's call for a vote on that. All in favor of approving the November 11th minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Let's move on to the election of the PAC chair and co-chair. This is what we need to do every year, have a chair election. The chair puts together the meeting meeting agenda and interacts closely with the board of directors. For the district, the co-chair is in a supporting role. I would like to see if anyone on the committee is interested in volunteering to be the chair.
No, but I'll move to appoint or elect Patrick to be the chair.
Okay. I have experience doing this, but I want to make sure that everyone on the committee knows that I'm willing to be in a supportive co-chair role, and that I feel it's good to have additional new leadership on PAC, but if I am called, I will serve.
Thank you.
Pat, do you want to call for other nominations?
Yes, is there a nomination for anyone else? Anyone want to nominate themselves or another person to be the chair or co-chair?
Well, Rick, what do you think? I bet you could run a meeting. I can't run meetings like this. I'm lousy at it. But Rick, you could. If you want to, give it a little.
I was just thinking Rick too.
Oh, well, there we go. You guys just got the second.
This microphone here. Thank you. But no, my schedule doesn't allow for that sort of time. My commitment is what it is right now.
Would you consider co-chair?
Yeah, I consider it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other nominations for chair or co-chair? Okay, so what we need at this point is we have a nomination of myself as chair and Rick as co-chair. Does someone want to put that into a concise statement that we can act on?
I think you can just vote to approve that.
Oh, okay, Delia.
Yeah, I don't believe you need a motion for that.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion on the table to have myself as chair, Rick Barker as co-chair. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. I'm abstaining. Any opposed? Okay, it passes 3 ayes, no opposed, 1 abstain.
Who abstained?
That would be 5 yeas and 1 abstain.
Okay.
I was muted. I said yeah, I support it.
Okay, so it's 4 ayes. So
Oh, 5.
the motion passes, and we have chair and co-chair.
Congratulations.
Woohoo!
Good.
Okay. Let's see, moving to item number 3. This is just a quick update. I'm going to ask Delia to share with the PAC and the community update on the staffing situation in the district, please.
Well, I'm a little surprised by this. I don't have anything much to tell you except for that I have a new assistant. I don't know how that will relate to parks or if it will at all. So as you all know, Claudia is no longer here. And I'm not sure what the board's intention is as far as replacing her. And it will possibly be on our the district board's next agenda. Is that correct, Barbara? Or Nancy?
Yes.
Okay. So
And
that's about it.
I guess, you know, one of the reasons, thank you, Delia. One of the reasons I
Sure.
had it on here, and it'd be very brief, is to see if the committee thinks it is as important as I do to have a recreation focused person on staff, whether that's part-time or full-time, because Delia, you're so busy and you have a new person that you're training. It's unclear whether they have been given a parks role, but there's a lot of activity and tasks related to parks that are needed. So I don't want to be preaching here or anything, but you know, there is concern on my part. Does anybody else have any concerns about having a replacement for Claudia?
Well, I asked about that at the board meeting last month or week or whenever it was. And Chuck Duffy said that because of the COVID-19 and because not much is going on right now, that they didn't think they needed to hire somebody for Parks and Rec because now they've got a second person in the office who can help. But that's what he said.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, Barbara and Nancy? So they don't want to hire at this time, I guess.
I think I can handle whatever needs to be done, at least for the time being. And if it becomes, you know, if PAC becomes more active and there's more work involved, then I'll discuss it with the general manager and he can bring it to the board.
Is there opportunities for the PAC members themselves to be involved, maybe supporting some of these activities if they were like ad hoc?
I think so.
Okay.
I know in the past PAC had a role in helping develop programs, leading some programs, finding members of the community who are willing to lead them, and in some cases even contracting, helping the contracting process. So we've done that in the past, Rick.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Any other comments on this agenda item before we move off? Okay, so we're pretty close to on time. We have one person. I don't see Mike Perez on the call. Mike, are you on the call?
Oh, I have people in the waiting room. Here we go. Hold on a minute. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
I don't know who they are, but, oh, Mike Perez, yes.
Yes, so Mike is here as well. Hi, Mike, welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. And Chris is here, a number of other people, so that's great. Because this item is a panel discussion on lessons learned from Half Moon Bay and Pacifica about their community centers. And as a little bit of background on this topic, the Granada Community Services District Board has shown potential interest in, but had made no commitments in, purchasing the old El Granada fire station and converting that or using that as a community center. The district had a community survey that was done in 2019 about parks and recreation. And there were at least 2 questions on that survey that addressed a community interest in a community center. And there was strong support shown for a community center. And it also did ask about if a small community center were to be constructed, what would be some of the features that they would like to see in a community center. And that information is available on the district website under the Parks Committee websites. So if you have interest in this topic, I encourage you to go onto the website to view that. But I will say that we are at a very, 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 very preliminary stage in the community center idea. And as of right now, there's been no commitments one way or the other. But we wanted to get a sense of what have been the lessons learned in Pacifica and in Half Moon Bay, who both have community centers. What are some ideas, what is most popular uses of those community centers? And so that it could help inform maybe our discussions in the future about a community center in the district. So happy to see Michael Perez, who is the director of Pacifica Recreation Parks and Beaches Department. Thank you for joining us, Michael. And Eddie Beal, who is the director of Half Moon Bay Recreation Services. Thank you both for being here this evening. I'm going to start by asking, Mike, you're muted, by the way. Asking you, Mike, and then Eddie, if you would just describe briefly what your community center features are, roughly how big is it and what are the main elements of your community centers?
Sure. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for having me. Happy to chime in a little bit. I'm going to guess a lot of you may have seen our community center, or at least been by it. It's right there on Highway 1 on the corner of Crespi in Pacifica. It was originally built in '72 to be an AT&T operator switching station. And then in '82, there was some underground storms that caused a lot of damage to the wiring. And basically the advances in technology, it made the facility pretty much obsolete. And so remained empty until our city council authorized a trust for public land to assist in negotiating a purchase price for the property in August of '86. And then there was once the transaction was complete, the council formed a 13-member community center review committee that basically was assisting with the definition of uses and the design of the facility. And we had an architectural firm come in, and it was completed and dedicated in November of '88. So just in terms of perspective, I've worked for the city for a long time. I started working in '88, so that was a long time ago. So I wasn't part of any of the transformation, but I know a little bit about it. And you guys are talking about taking over an existing building. So, we had a building that was not built to be a community center, and it has a lot of oddities because of that. Maybe that's some of its charm as well. But we have, it's probably about, I was looking up the square footage, and altogether it's about 19,000 square feet. And I can get you guys breakdowns of different rooms we have and the sizes. But again, it wasn't built to be a community center, so we just sort of adapted everything to that. And as far as activities, I would say popular, and this obviously pre-COVID, activities that were popular would include, any exercise class seems to be good. And that's during the day, our senior center is mostly, or excuse me, our community center is mostly a senior center. So during the day, we have a very robust senior program that happens. And typically some preschool classes and things like that. But at nighttime would be more of what we call the adult classes. And then weekends, we would rent it for everything from, birthday parties to weddings and various family occasions and school fundraisers, things like that. So
Hey, Michael, if you could back up just for a second,
Sure.
what are the main features of your community center? You said, is there like a gym? Is there meeting rooms?
Sure. So we call it sort of an auditorium that serves as a lunchroom for our seniors Monday through Friday. So it's about, I think it's about 2,500 square feet. It's rough. It's not quite a square, but it's about 50 by 51, somewhere around there. And that's also a place where we have large dance classes. If someone was to rent the building for, a party of anywhere between, 100 to 150 people, that would be the place they'd go for that. Line dancing was popular, always in there. You get people spread out. You can do a fairly large class. We've got another room that's essentially a dance studio. It's kind of a long rectangular room, probably half the size of our auditorium. It has mirrors on the wall and a bar, and exercise and dance classes are there. We've got 2 dedicated preschool rooms that are for enrichment preschool. So it's not like childcare. It'd be for like mommy and me classes or, special art ones or tiny tots, things like that. So it's not a licensed childcare, but more for folks that have some time and can, have their kids in for, 1 to 3 days a week, depending on their thing. We've got a playground outside. We've got several meeting rooms of different sizes. So, there's a small meeting room that you could fit, 5 or 6 people in comfortably. And then a larger meeting room that, if you sat people kind of in a classroom style, you could do, 35 people in there if you wanted. And they all have different uses and configurations. There's several offices for staff because we have mostly a lot of my staff, a couple recreation folks, and then our whole senior services staff work down there. So they've got offices in there. We actually have a ceramics room. So there's a kiln in there. I mean, you could basically, if you have a room, doesn't have a carpet in it, you could make it a ceramics room if you have a kiln. We have a fully functioning kitchen because our senior program does daily lunches and meals on wheels and scratch cooking out of the kitchen. So when people rent it, we have all the rules and things that go along with what they can use in there. A lot of times we call that a catering kitchen. So we tell folks it's not where you want to make the meal, it's where you want to kind of heat it up and get it prepped. They're not typically coming in there and cooking everything from the beginning when it's a wedding or a fundraiser or something like that. And the kitchen has, it's got a walk-in freezer, all the HVAC stuff, the boiler room, big electrical room. There's, several places for storage. That's probably one thing that you really need to look at. You probably have a lot of tables, and you're gonna have to make a decision like if these tables are the kind that can, be put away easily, can they take a beating? Because our tables have taken quite a beating. And we've had some big swing and misses with some of our furniture, I'd say, and others that have just lasted like, really solid. There's various waiting areas, or maybe I'd say like a lounge area or a gallery. Our gallery we have where it's an opportunity for us to hang art. And pre-COVID, we would have usually monthly artists there, and nobody really famous, but local folks that would hang their art. We've done children's art shows there and things like that. So our building is open 5 days a week, and then on the weekends it's opened up for rentals as they come. So if we didn't have a rental on a Saturday, we wouldn't be open. Sunday we did have pre-COVID. We had one of in a line of many years. The last church, it was a third church that came every Sunday. So they had an ongoing rental, but they didn't keep anything at the building. They're kind of like a rock band. They roll it in, roll it out, and they came, and that was a good use. Sunday's not a super popular day to get rentals, so it was nice to have them in there.
Thanks, Mike. If I can jump over to Eddie now. And then we'll go to the second question. So Eddie, can you give us a little bit of background on Half Moon Bay Community Center?
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Thanks for having me, everybody. And just to correct you real quick, Patrick, I'm the recreation coordinator, not the director. I keep asking them to change my title, but they said more goes into it than that. So just the coordinator. Yeah, so to answer your question, I don't know when the Ted Adcock Community Center was built. I don't know that date. It's the Ted Adcock Senior Community Center. I do know that up until about 12 years ago, that was the primary source for all of our communities, senior resources, services, recreation programming, and classes until the development of the senior co-siders here in Half Moon Bay, which is basically a senior living complex with its own center for daily meals, resources, lunches, programs, and classes and things of that nature. So while we still do offer classes geared towards seniors, the bulk of what they do and participate in takes place over the senior co-siders on Main Street in Half Moon Bay. So that frees us up at the community center to be just, open to all kinds of recreation, all kinds of services. Ted Adcock Community Center, it's on 535 Kelly Avenue. I'm sure you might have passed by it before. Right next to it's a state-of-the-art skate park, which is pretty well trafficked and pretty popular amongst a lot of our youth and skateboarders in town. The senior center is 6,000 square feet of usable space. We do have 6 usable rooms in the facility. Our 7th room is a smaller meeting space that's held specifically for city council purposes. But we do have 6 usable rooms at our community center that, we use both for renting out for meetings, for trainings, classes, our recreation programming, and rentals as well. We do have a commercial kitchen, which during the shutdown was actually completely renovated. We've had a unusable kitchen for 3.5 years and just was unusable to the public just due to it being out of code and not up to compliance. So yeah, during shutdown, we were actually able to completely renovate that commercial kitchen. And now that's, once we open back up, will be available for usage and classes and programming and for rental as well. We do have public restrooms. We have public Wi-Fi that we provide to all of our contracted instructors, all of our program participants, as well as renters of our facility. And we also have a fairly new sound system installed in the community center. So again, we make that available to anyone that's hosting an event there, or our instructors for programs, or for renters as well. Let's see. So we have 3 small meeting spaces. They're all basically the same size. They can accommodate 10 to 15 people depending on the setup of a meeting or a training or a class. And that's typically what we use for our smaller classes, our painting classes, our ukulele classes, jewelry making, smaller classes that really appreciate having a smaller space that's more private and more kind of secluded. I'm sorry. And we also have a large staff office that about this time last year, we had 3 full-time staff stationed in, as well as 7 part-time staff that would work out of. And now we're down to 2 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff, but we're coming back. I think one of the coolest features of the community center is our large grand oak room. And it's definitely the most used space in our community center, both by the recreation department and the public as well. This room is large enough to accommodate 400 people in an auditorium style seating and about 220 in a dining style seating. So while we do use that large room for our programming and our events, between the months of March and September, historically, we would have that reserved every Saturday for a birthday party, a celebration, a quinceañera. We're always busy on Saturdays, and just like Mike said, if we're not having a reservation there during a Saturday, then we typically wouldn't be open. Definitely one of the lessons I've learned from being out here on the coast side is that there is absolutely a need and a demand for rentable event spaces. In Half Moon Bay, there's one other option for folks that want to have a 100, 200 person party. And the difference between our fee schedule and theirs is pretty substantial. Our fee schedule is pretty modest. And so I think that drives a lot of the traffic to the community center. So some of our most popular programs, and I know, Nancy's part of this group, are pickleballers. We do pickleball about 5 times a week. So that's probably our most popular program. In this large room, we also hold, hula classes, martial arts classes, ballroom dance classes. It's a highly used room, and it's really great because in this room, we have tracks on our ceiling that allow you to separate the large room, into 3 smaller rooms or 2 small rooms. So there's a lot of flexibility in having an amenity like that. I think there's a lot of benefits that we found to having that, both with simultaneously, run programming or 2 rentals on the same day at the same time. It's really nice to be able to separate that large room into smaller rooms. Yeah, I think that's about it. Unless you have any other questions, Patrick.
Eddie, is that room you're referring to, the large room, the Grand Oak room, does that have a wood floor? Is it a gym or floor, or how you have that set up?
We actually, just for continuity purposes, we wanted to just do the whole building in the same kind of flooring. So it's basically a laminate wood floor, adhesive stuck wood floor. It's pretty damage resistant, and it's really easy to replace. So we just found, again, for continuity purposes and just for ease of our public works department, we kind of streamlined it, just had the same floor throughout the entire building.
Hey, Eddie.
Yes.
Oh, I had a question for Eddie. The building that's adjacent to the Ted Adcock Center, is that the Bell Building? Is that another facility that the community uses, or is that a separate private property?
Are you talking about where the Shoreline Station is, all the clinics and over there?
No, I think it's the Debonetti Building, or the other. There's like a hall right next to the Ted Adcock Center, just right next to the Lady of the Pillar Church. Is that part of the church?
No, that's actually the church's rental space that they use for parties. I thought you were referring to the 555 property, because that house right there between the community center and Kelly Street was purchased a few years ago by the city. So we own that, but not the event center.
Awesome.
Hey, before we move on to next questions, at this point, opportunity for the public or PAC or our board members to ask questions before we go on to next topics. Anybody have any questions, comments? Barbara, please.
I posted it, but I wanted to know how big the community served, how many people are in the community that's being served by each, because we're a lot smaller. So I wondered, I have a sense of Half Moon Bay, but I'd still like to know what they see as their, the size of their community. And I'd like to know, for same thing for Pacifica.
Pacifica is about, I think, 39,000. We're shy of 40.
And Half Moon Bay is about 12,500.
So I had a question, gentlemen. The revenue structure and the rental fees, what sort of annual percentage of your operating cost does that cover? Is it actually a profit center, or is that a break even, or is that just what are we looking at there?
It's a great question. Of course, I didn't bring my budget with me, and I haven't looked at it for a while since we're making no money on the building right now. Yeah, I've jokingly referred to our building sometimes as a money pit. And that's one thing, I guess you could file that under lessons learned, because we're the city. A lot of what we do is we're subsidizing that building because we have the senior programs there. And when you set up your fees, that's something that you're going to want to look into. If we broke down our rentals, we're not losing money on renting programs. We're not losing money on our classes and those types of things. But the way the city budget is structured, and the community center is like a program in itself, which includes staff and all that stuff. So to get that exact, to answer what I think you want to know, I can't really give that to you. But it's also, the will of the community is that they want a community center, right? And there's some things that you're willing to pay for. You're probably not willing to pay for your neighbor to play softball for free, but you might be willing to pay for, a great center that provides classes and programs to all the various folks that are in there,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
On rentals alone, we probably, we probably would top out in a really good year, maybe make 60 grand just on, renting actual things that are not, given away. When people are paying us money to use the building, we'd probably make about that. But we have a lot of our own programs in there, and that money goes elsewhere. So it's not really counted against the community center in that way.
See, I had, let's see, Dan Haggerty had his hand up. I see Nancy and anyone else? Go ahead, Dan. Paula's had a hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I got on late. The link that was on the agenda sent me somewhere else. And anyway, so are these questions just for, it looks like the City of Half Moon Bay Community Center? Are we going to be able to discuss after? Because my question's not really directed towards City of Half Moon Bay.
Dan, this is just a panel discussion about lessons learned in Pacifica and Half Moon Bay. We're not talking about anything to do with El Granada right now because the district has not made any decisions on whether to even have a community center.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much. No question then.
All right, Nancy.
Just a question for both about if you could choose an adjacency and location of your building. Now, El Granada is not very big, so we have one main street. But one of the things that's attractive about the old fire station is it is right across the street from a location where we're planning a park. And so for recreation, we kind of see there could be some synergy for serving recreation happening in the park from the building, the community center that would be right across from it. So some efficiency in managing recreation if those things are essentially adjacent. And I just wondered if you had a view on that. I know you guys have a lot more parks.
Yeah, I would definitely lean towards saying that would be a benefit, having an adjacent park to your community center. I mean, it's got, so many benefits. Just and being in close proximity to the community center, then it's easier for you to do in-house camps and take them there. You can't go wrong with being close to grass in a community center.
Yeah, I would be very envious. We have a community center that doesn't have a lot of great adjacencies. There's a busy street and we've got a patch of grass in front, but there's nowhere. If we have something with kids, we'll take them across the street to the school. So it's a little bit of a walk. It's nice to have. And also you might want to, when everything comes back from COVID, it's going to be different. How different it's going to be, we don't know. There's going to maybe be an emphasis on outside classes, going outside, doing things, whether it's, your dog training class in your parking lot, or, people have said, oh, we're going to dance outside or whatever. But I think having access to open, outdoor space is going to be a benefit. I know it's not always the greatest weather, but your folks are used to it down there, right? They're used to the little fog. I'm sure it'll be fine, but I would literally kill to have some park space near my community center.
One more question. I was really interested actually, because I hadn't really thought about all of the opportunity to partner with the senior support organizations. El Granada is about 40% people over 55, which would be about 1,500 people or so. But I wonder if what experience you have with partnering with kind of small vendors, because the other opportunity there may be yoga teachers who just don't have a venue, or art teachers who just don't have a venue, who could be offering things locally, but they just don't have any place to do it. So we're kind of thinking about what's the value of a venue to creating more of a hub for the community.
You want me to go, Eddie? I would say, I guess, if you say vendors, and we refer to our teachers a lot as contract instructors, that kind of thing. If someone has a business and like a brick and mortar in town, we've run classes through them, and that's different than having a matter center. But certainly, the attraction for someone who is teaching a class and maybe they don't have that reach is that we organize everything from advertising to the registration to getting their class list to them, and we do a lot of things for them because we have the infrastructure to do that might make it more attractive for them to offer something through us. And they don't necessarily they don't have to have a actual place of business. And there are some people that are close to the cities that work for us, work for Daly City or maybe another community on a different day. And you might see the same person teaching, a certain dance class at more than one city, because we're not going to have them 5 days a week, right? So I think that's definitely good, and you can start ahead of time by reaching out to those folks.
Paul, you had a hand up.
Yeah, hi there. Thank you for coming in or calling in tonight. I was wondering, I thought of it because you're talking about after COVID, in your positions of managing these existing facilities, have you heard, is there going to be any requirements as far as like HVAC ventilate, like increasing ventilation capacity on your buildings in order to have indoor classes of that type? I mean, is there anything like that in the works? I mean, is that going to be viewed as like additional cost in the future, or is this after COVID thing kind of thinking it's going to just slowly taper back to normal in time, or is that just all unknown territory right now?
I think for our part, Paul, we're hopeful, and that's all we have right now is hope. And that recreation is allowed to come back indoors in the next few months with some modifications, obviously. But we won't know if that's going to be a factor in our programming fees until that directive's kind of given down from the county. We're trying to stay lockstep with what the current county health mandates are. So, and I think selfishly as a recreation person, I would be on board to do whatever it takes to bring it back in. If we had to get 40 fans to suck out all the air, we would pay to bring people back in. It'd be worth it for us. But right now we just don't know. We're planning for some summer programs in hopes that at that point we will be able to bring recreation back indoors. But I'm not sure I know anything else other than that at the moment.
And I would add that it's, especially in the beginning, but it's still doing the requirements change. They're constantly changing. They are finding new things out. And most of us in the recreation business, we're not, lawyers. We're still not lawyers, but the way that they put their guidelines out and they change, we've got to read through all this stuff, and there's various things, and it's somewhat stable now, even though we're in the purple. I think we've been doing some things for a while. I know for office space, some of the office space people have gotten like some sort of ventilation portable, units that will make it, the airflow a little bit better, because most of the buildings, even besides my community center and offices that we work in, they're pretty old. And so getting that in there, and we're also considering like, well, how close can everybody work together, while we're doing these things. So it'll probably be a consideration, but like Eddie said, we'll also are just going to go with it and do what we need to do to get things back again.
Does anybody else have any questions before we move on to the next part of this panel?
Yeah, I would like to ask something.
Sure.
As far as the property owner structure, where does the ownership of the property, is that lay in some sort of trust in the city property for you guys? Yeah, I mean, GCSD it doesn't exactly equate to the same structures of cities. So I'm just kind of wondering, I guess this is more of a question for GCSD, not you guys, because you guys are clearly owned by the cities. So never mind my question. I answered it.
Answered his own question. You got off the hook, Eddie and Mike. Okay. I'm going to ask both of our panel members this question. And what have you found to be the most essential elements of your community center? We have a smaller population here to support the district's programs. Everybody would love to have a swimming pool, but I'm not sure we can afford one, since they're very, very expensive to maintain and build and so forth. But what would be, your top 3 or 4 most essential elements for your community center?
Wow. It's a big question. For me, 4 things I would say: having staff that's very much customer service based and oriented, that care a lot for the community that they're serving. I think that's number 1. Number 2 is letting your community kind of dictate what the community center is. When I came on about 4 years ago, we didn't have a city-run recreation department. It was outsourced to the Boys and Girls Club, City of San Carlos. So when I came on, I had to create a brand new recreation department, and it was just trial and error. Someone comes to us with an idea as a contract instructor, or someone interested in teaching a class or a course or hosting a program, is being open-minded and flexible and willing to try things that, while personally you might not think will be super well received, but letting the community decide. I think that's really important. Geez, 2 more. What's that?
I was going to say, what about the facility itself?
The facility itself, top would be having a facility that's set up to facilitate an event or a large party, a reservation. As I kind of touched on before, we're busy 3/4 of the year on Saturdays because there's not a lot of options here on the coast side in regards to a rentable event space. And I think you would be, seeing a benefit from looking at this new community center as that kind of a source for revenue. I know roughly our total revenue we generate every year through the recreation department, about 65% of it is all from facility reservations. So that's something I think is an important thing to think about, and that, just outside of the scope of just recreation programs and classes, is that there are other alternate streams of revenue you can be looking at coming out of that facility as well.
I have a question as regards to the revenue for booking and things like that. Is it community prioritized, or who can rent this facilities, and is there a different cost structure or prioritization of who can rent it?
For our facility, first right of refusal is given to us, the city, the recreation department, and our programming. The city council, obviously, back a year ago when we were doing in-person city council meetings at the community center, those would kind of be the top 3 priorities. And then other government agencies and other cities that want to come and use our sites for training or for meetings or events. Outside of that, it's a first come, first served basis. And that's how we reserve.
It'd be about the same for us. And there's a price structure for various usage from nonprofit, weekdays, weekends, folks that are for profit, resident, non-resident, that type of thing.
So there is a structure for resident or non-resident?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Michael, we'll go back to you. What would be your top 4 most essential community center items?
If I can, I like what Eddie said too, so I won't repeat those things. I do like the idea about the customer service, and something that occurred to me is that, the community center, and I would imagine in your community, which is not very big, can be a focal point for you. It can be the place where things happen, or where people know to go for various things, and they're like, oh, of course that's happening at the community center. And how you get there is, something you all will probably figure out. But if that's one of your goals, I think that's an achievable one. That's what happens to community centers, and they have so many things going on there that people just, recognize that that's where it's going to happen. But I would say just a couple things that I jotted down earlier when I got the note from Pat. I think staffing, what Eddie said is right. I also include that, if you're going to have staff at the building, is this something where you have multiple rooms? Is somebody going to be working there? And who's that going to be? And like us, even in small community, we got plenty of people during the day. At night, we have one person on duty. That one person is usually a young, college age person that's there. And you can imagine, if somebody calls in sick or isn't there, then the person who's that supervisor, the full-timer, has got to figure out to get someone there. And that can cause a problem. If you do end up doing large rentals, I'm envious of a lot of the folks that have bigger rooms, like Eddie's got a bigger room than we do, where you might put 2 people on staff, so you're covered, right? But that's a concern when you have an event. And if you're having stuff on the weekend, that means someone's got to be there to answer those questions, or get the call when the alarm goes off, or respond to those types of things. So when the building's open, then that means there's some sort of responsibility there, and that's a big thing to consider. Security, and I did mention alarms and things like that, but we've been closed, and before we had a restroom outside of our building that people could go to, people literally pulled the doors so hard they set the alarm off. And you get a call at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, nobody's broken in, but they've set the alarm off. So that's things like that. Prior to me being the director, I worked at the community center for like 11 years. So, and we have like 9 different ways you can get in the building. So you can imagine there's a lot of doors to deal with. And then one thing we didn't talk about is someone's got to clean it. So you guys need to think about not just cleaning, but maintenance. Any type of maintenance that's there. Cities have maintenance guys, right, that work for us, that come in and fix things when they get broken, unless they have to contract somebody out. But we also have contracted janitorial. And if you're open 7 days a week, you probably have to have someone clean it up, that much. And when you do rentals, there's usually so much you can do with private folks that rent it. Okay, you guys are in charge of putting the tables and chairs away, but someone's got to be there sort of to guide it. And there are a few places where you rent a hall and it's just that hall, and you get a key or code and you never see anybody. But you may want a little more control with that. And we went from a model many years ago of people doing everything, and us, we'd have somebody just sit there like a gas station attendant too. No, we're going to do a little more customer service, and our staff is going to help and be part of that and deal with all that. These parties come in, and you need to remind them that whatever they put out and put up, they have to take down at the end of the night. and that's usually I always advise to don't go big on the decorations. Spend it somewhere else, and you'll save yourself at the end of the night when maybe a few people have had a few too many and they're trying to clean up. And that could be a tough one. Have a deposit. Make sure you have clear rules about how you enforce that. Have that renter agree on what they're leaving with, because you don't want to have some call and dispute something that happened or something that wasn't cleaned up. And also, if you're going to serve alcohol, there's the ABC, and you got to have alcohol insurance, and there's all types of things like that you can put onto the renter, but that's also another process that you go through. And I'd be happy to share any of our documents and our pricing chart or our regulations or anything like that.
Yes, great. One quick question, and then I'll have Lucy. I think you've had your hand up. Sorry, I missed it. Just to focus back, Mike, facility, not staffing, not pricing, not maintenance, what facility elements would you consider essential? The most popular, the things that you couldn't live without.
It'd be really hard to live without storage. I mentioned that earlier. You really need somewhere to put stuff. And if you don't have a place to put it, then you maybe are gonna have to come up with something like temporary. We do have one room which got these big partition kind of false walls that tuck stuff away in a corner, but it's much nicer when there's a place for it to all go. I think again about the set. I think what it has to do with is you really want it to be secure. And back to the HVAC thing. I thought about that a little bit more. The airflow, how it works. We've got multiple rooms, and you've got people that are too hot or too cold in a room in the same room. And dealing with that, we have a regulated air, but people will get hot, and so they open the door, but they don't understand that then the heater works harder because the door's open, right? So having those kinds of controls, I don't know about the building you'd be looking at, but I probably thought more about those things than I ever thought I would. We bought a thing called a swamp cooler, which is like twice as big, maybe 3 times as big as me on wheels, that will cool a very large room when we have, 300 junior teen kids there on Friday nights for dances once a month during the school year. And it's sweaty like you wouldn't believe. So those are things that necessarily, if they're not built into the building, there are temporary solutions or portable solutions, and you might want to think about those as well.
All right, Lucy, and then Rick has his hand up. Lucy, go ahead.
Thank you, Patrick. I believe that Michael just probably handled most of my HVAC questions that I put into the chat about any discussions there if you were building a building from scratch, what you would add there. And I'm assuming, building on Paul's question with ventilation and heating filtrations, that if building from scratch, you would probably take those into consideration as well and add those to a budget moving forward.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Lucy. Rick, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. Paul, is your question more relevant to the topic at hand, though?
No, I was going to talk more about activities and recreation. So
okay.
If
let me follow up with the facilities one then. Regarding access control and locking out of offices when you're renting out spaces and keys and that sort of nature. This may be a real ground level question, but what is sort of your access granting and paradigm sort of look like? Is it old school keys? Are we looking at key cards, or have you moved to any sort of modern locks and access control?
We actually use key cards in our facility. Our main entrance to our lobby for the community center is opened by either a key or a key card. So any staff citywide can access the facility. With our staff office, which is where we are during the day, where that one person would be stationed on a solo shift on the weekend during a huge party. The only way to access that room, that office, is with the key card. And we made it that way just for safety's sake, for those folks that are working by themselves at night during, a busy event.
We're old school still. We'd love to get a key card system. We have keys for everything, but we do not give the keys to our renters. So unless you work for us or you know haven't been assigned a key, you don't get anywhere in the building. We're looking at going to an outdoor key card system because, just a side note, one of our city civic center has got mold issues, and probably in the next 3 to 6 months, about 28 staff members are going to move into our community center temporarily for about, I don't know, a year to a year and a half.
Right on. So you guys both, do you guys both have Monday through Friday sort of like a walk-up window where somebody can just talk to somebody like on site? Because I imagine if we are envisioning the old firehouse there is a lot of foot traffic. It would almost be like a tourist information center, and that person would be inundated with foot traffic. Is that something you guys handle and have somebody on staff for?
We do typically when we're open. We actually haven't been open to the public since March. We still open the facility twice a week for our weekly COVID testing and our weekly food distribution. And at which point we'll have a staff that's there at the receptionist help desk. But yeah, we're not open right now, so that's not something that we can offer. But typically, normal times, yes, absolutely.
Right. Same here. People would come in and ask all kinds of things. We're right near the beach, a lot of walk-up traffic. A lot of people want to use the bathroom too, so you can't discount that. If you're open and there's a bathroom in there, they'll want to use it. So that's one thing when you're renting it out to private folks on the weekends. It's hard to, kind of, politely get people, hey, we have a private event, we have certain signs and stuff. It was helped a lot when we put a bathroom outside the building though.
All right, anybody else have their hand up? I am not seeing.
I do, Pat.
Okay, go ahead.
I was wondering, are there, it sounds like the most popular activities there, you said like exercise and dance classes, you said you have ceramics, and you also have the community, the event space, and senior programs. Is there any more that's, maybe like specific activities that are held there that are popular? And are there any type of activities that the community has been requesting there that would seem popular that you haven't been able to provide? Maybe something we would want to take into account, maybe that we would also find to be popular around here.
We would probably love to be able to do pickleball. We don't really have a good size room for it. And we did it for a while with just our seniors, but our room isn't quite set up for it. And they stopped doing it. We do have a bocce ball court on the outside that's for the seniors. That's really popular with them. And I did mention, but I didn't mention in terms of the classes that are popular, but we did get a lot of sign up for the enrichment preschool classes too. So folks that were at home during the day with their preschoolers, but wanted to find, something that they could do, some sort of socialization. And that was, those are pretty popular as well. And when I say exercise too, it could be yoga, could be Tai Chi, could be Feldenkrais, and the seniors do all kinds of, different exercises too, more low impact and things like that.
I think for our part, several years ago, we did a gap study, which basically entailed us looking at other coastal cities, Pacifica, Daly City, and just seeing what's offered out there, what's available to, specifically our community members, and what we could offer that wasn't being provided to them. That way we wouldn't be redundant with our offerings and weren't really double dipping from the same small pool of people. So that's something that I found useful. And that's how we narrow it in, kind of like what Mike said, preschool age, kids that are 2 to 5 and 6. We've had a lot of success with that age of programs. We do a tiny tyke soccer, which is they say it's the fundamentals of soccer, but it's really just teaching the kids how to run around with a ball and work with other kids. But definitely that age group is definitely something that's popular here at our community center. Yeah.
Thank you.
Rick, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I guess I got more questions. I don't know if you guys can answer this question delicately without calling anything out, but is there one activity or one event or anything that you guys maybe requires more effort or more storage or more logistics than you may feel it's worth? Or is there one activity that if you could go back, you wouldn't offer? I don't know how you answer this without alienating those people. But.
I would say that the one about offering that, took a lot, we had karate for many, 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 many years. And they take up a lot of mats, which is a lot of storage. So if you don't have, we're talking about, one that's almost as high as me, a cart of mats rolling in, because they put it in our largest room and set it up so they could have a pretty big class in there. And it was interlocking, and so it wouldn't move, and kind of had this wooden border and everything. So storing that was kind of a big deal. And we don't have the group anymore, but we did have, and I think that's one because the person who owned that studio or owned that practice moved out of the area, and it had been passed down to a couple people. But there's also a bunch of karate schools already in town. So what Eddie said is not only like with the other cities, but if your own city is providing something, or in your case, maybe the real neighboring community, you got to decide, do you need to compete with that, or is that need already being met? So if your community is taking advantage of some sort of offering, you don't need to do the same thing, because you're probably, unless you do it really great and better right off the bat, it's better to sort of provide something like he was saying, a gap in the service. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't do karate again, but it's definitely, it had a life of its own. A lot of people hanging out, imagine if you've ever been to a karate studio. We had one in our community center for 2 nights a week for, I don't know, 25 years or something. So it was pretty interesting.
I've got one for you, Rick. Our martial arts too, they have a lot of mats, a lot of equipment. They insist on having like 8 flag poles of flags. I don't know what. But one rough one was our community coast-side orchestra group, which was one of the few standing recreation programs that were there when I came on about 4 years ago. And it was a big program. There was 30, 40 people that would come consistently every Wednesday. And that storage was a nightmare. It started off as, the instructor said, hey, we want this bass drum to sit in the storage. And so we okayed that. And then that turned into 2. Next thing you know, we're storing all of the sheet music holders, those stands. And I think just having a clear line in the beginning that, you can accommodate recreation programming, but you can't guarantee they have or even allow them to keep their equipment there, because it just steamrolls and snowballs into more and more. Next thing you know, you have 5 instructors. I just need a place to put this till next time. And then your storage is gone.
I hear a theme of storage among both of you. And what also strikes me is you're also saying you need to have your rooms being flexible to where you can have different sizes sometimes of the room, different types of activity that require athleticism, other events, other parties. And that to me means more storage. You need the barriers, the mats, the game balls, the Christmas decorations, there's so much need for storage if you don't have a big enough space to have specialized rooms and have more flexibility. Is that fair to say?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. All right. We're going to be winding down here pretty soon. Any questions from PAC members and the public? I'm looking at hands raised here and I don't see any more. Anyone else want to ask a question of our panelists?
I have a quick question.
Go right ahead.
As a public member, I wanted to ask, I really feel like a a Boys and Girls Club is really important in our area, especially speaking of gap in services. We have nothing like that around here. And I know that the city of Half Moon Bay has a Boys and Girls Club. I don't know about Pacifica, but if that wasn't there, don't you think that you would be maybe utilized more for youth services or something like that? Because you can't discuss that if you're not, taking care of that issue, since you do have a Boys and Girls Club. So it's just curious.
I feel like that would be the case if they weren't here to fill some of those needs of our community's youth, that we would, folks in the community would look to us to kind of fill that role. We are fortunate in that we do have a Boys and Girls Club and a really great partnership with them. Yeah, we would have to have a lot more staff and a lot more of a bandwidth if that were the case and we had to fill those roles, because they do a lot in our community. Right now at our community center, Monday through Friday, we host the Boys and Girls Club remote learning, where they provide a safe space for some of the high schoolers that either don't have stable internet at home or a safe and quiet place to focus. That's just one of a million things that they offer that we actually don't have the bandwidth to do something like that. So I'd like to say thank you to the Boys and Girls Club out there for doing what you do.
Same thing for us. We have, it kind of fits into what we were talking about. They fill a certain need, and it doesn't make sense for us to try to do that. When the middle school, I think it's been 20 years or something, opened up in our Sharp Park neighborhood, we were considering looking at doing programs there, and the Boys and Girls Club came in with a proposal, and they did it better than we could have done it. They had the ability to do that. They also own a building in our town, which is why they're located where they're at. Unfortunately for them, there's no school there anymore next door. They were right next door to a school which closed. And so, but they're not abandoning, they're still doing programs there and bringing kids in. So we would not want to compete with that, what they're doing there, although they also would not be competing with us, because we also had a reverse situation where they were going to start doing something that we were already doing, and they figured, no, we don't need to do that because City Pacific is already doing it.
Thank you.
Nancy, you had a hand up.
I'm glad, thank you, Lucy, for posting your question about kitchens, because you reminded me about the question I had that I forgot. If we have a space that is smaller than Half Moon Bay space, what kind of value would you put on a catering kitchen, which is a pretty big chunk of dedicated space, versus a simple sink, microwave, refrigerator and freezer for something that is a pretty small community center or serving a small community? Eddie, I don't know in your new kitchen if that's a full catering kitchen or one that you could use for cooking classes. But if you had, less space or half the space, what kind of priority would you put on what kind of kitchen?
Well, so I feel like I have a little bit of a unique perspective on this. We've had this broken down, disgusting kitchen that we couldn't use for 3 years. So I got to hear it all. I got to hear everyone from the community's opinion about that. We need a place to stage our food and our drinks, maybe not necessarily to cook or to serve out of, but just a place to store things was really important. They didn't have that for 3 years at our community center. We did decide ultimately, once this project was kind of moved up in priority in our CIP, that we wanted a commercial kitchen because it has so many benefits of making a commercial grade kitchen. Not only can caterers now be hired and come and cook out of there legally, up to code, but we can also rent that out to other businesses, or for example, if you enter yourself into a salsa making contest and wherever, hypothetically, you have to prepare that food in a kitchen that's a commercial kitchen and that's permitted as a commercial kitchen. So we just thought, looking down the road in the future, it's just going to cover all the bases to have a commercial kitchen. And now we're really excited. We haven't got to use it yet or offer it to the public yet, but once we do, I have no doubt it's going to be used all the time. You know, people still need food for the events that they host. So their way of kind of circumventing the fact that we didn't have a kitchen available was they would hire a caterer to cook on a grill outside. But I would say 8 times out of 10, the group that's renting our facility would like to have a kitchen, and it's something that they would think is necessary.
Mike, do you have any quick comments, and then we're going to move on?
Just to confirm for Eddie, it really is a benefit
Oh, sure.
for the value of your space as a rental space and the potential for that revenue stream as a rental space, as opposed to supporting recreation or events.
Absolutely. I think the recreation part of a kitchen use would probably be secondary compared to, you know, the usage you would see in a reservation. But yeah, I'm glad we have it. Over quarantine, I learned how to make sausages. So I might even do a sausage making class. And now I can if I want to.
Don't do it during pickleball though.
After.
I can't cook, but I agree with what Eddie said about the kitchen. So fortunately for us, we've always had a working kitchen that's done well for us.
Okay, yeah, that's you bring up a couple of, several points along the way here. Should we have facilities that cater to or try to cater to preschool education, after school education, senior programs when we have a senior center? Those are all interesting things that we'll need to think about in the future. We're gonna close up the panel here, and let's see, Rick. Anybody else?
Can I ask one closing question?
Sure, go ahead, Rick.
Do you veterans of the community center arena, what would be your most low-hanging fruit, like dollar bang for buck activity? What would you start with for some people just getting into this arena? What activities?
That's a tough one. Low-hanging fruit, the way you put that, I know what you're looking for. It's funny, this is not what I would tell you to do, but probably bang for our buck, what we do and make, the most money on is our J-Team dances, because you get 300 kids in there for, $5-7 a pop, and the DJ only costs a few $100, and we have our staff. It's not that bad, but that's not something I would wish on my worst enemy. No, just kidding. You don't want to do that. Probably don't want to get into that business. That's one of those things that you don't fill that gap, let somebody else fill that gap. Of course, the city can fill that. It's an interesting thing. You'll probably do well if you can get a place and rent it, for people. I bet there's a need in your community. What Eddie said about there not being a lot of places, that's true. And we're not necessarily competing for space against neighboring cities as we are for maybe the hotel or the restaurant. And in our city, we don't have a place. We have no place you can go with like 300 people. That's what I would love to have, is something, the 200-300. We don't, I know you guys are a small community, but people want to rent it for those types of parties. And again, I'm talking pre-COVID. Nobody should be having their parties now, but that would be something to get into, and you guys could figure that out. I think with your contract instructors, anybody, it's going to be, what does your community want and what are they willing to come out for? There's some things that have been very, very popular over the years, and they kind of ebb and flow, but find out what they want to do. And if you guys can do it, that's probably the way to go, because the low hanging fruit piece of that is the popularity, right? So if people want to do it, then it might be something that you want to offer.
Definitely. I just want to jump on there with Mike real quick and just echo that a low-hanging fruit, I think, for a department starting up is obviously you want to host some recreation programming. Try to recruit and try to look for those people that have a real passion for it. Passion versus like looking for a lucrative new, stream of revenue. Someone that's willing to start off small to build something bigger with you guys. An instructor who's not, concerned on making a bunch of money, but just getting their offerings out there. Someone that's willing to host their program for pretty cheap. Here at the City Half Moon Bay, typically we do a 70-30 split with the instructors. So we retain 30% of the total revenue generated from their programs. And that goes to administrative, work and advertising and things like that. But just finding someone that's willing to make their program affordable and accessible to people, especially starting out, I think that's your best direction, is to find people that are willing to not make all the money they want in hopes of building something and building a clientele base.
One other thing that I don't think either of us mentioned, and I just thought of it now, is depending on how many classes you have and what you're going to do, you're going to have a way for these people to register. And so, and it's got to have online capabilities, and those aren't free. And there's different systems out there, and some of them have more monopoly than others. And I'm not going to say what we use is the best, because I wouldn't mind getting out of it, but it's just, we're kind of with it. We use ActiveNet registration, and you can pass the cost of using that onto the customer, or you can absorb it yourself. So there's different sort of models of how you do it, but basically when money goes through the system, then they take a fee for that. But they also handle credit cards, and there's compliance when you use credit cards that's required. And so those are things to consider how you're going to do your registration.
Mike and Eddie, not taking into account office space for persons who are not in a recreation program, not in the working parts of the community center or a recreation program, how much office space do you have?
I'm not sure I understood that question, Patrick.
Just how much office space do you have for your recreation staff and or registration?
We basically, in our lobby, we have a reception customer service desk. Actually, if you want to screen share real quick, I can show you guys. I kind of put together a slideshow, but Mike didn't bring one, so I didn't want to do mine.
Thank you very much. Thanks for pointing that out, but still bringing the slideshow.
Yeah, no, I did good bringing it. It's not great. I had to take some of the pictures myself today, but Patrick, if you want me, I can show you a picture of ours real quick.
Yeah, Delia, try it. Does it show on your screen, Eddie? Screen share button?
It does not.
It does not. Okay.
It does not. Desktop. Okay, here we go. Can everybody see?
Yes, we can see it.
Nice. Okay. So now I was going to give a disclaimer that I took these pictures today and I'm embarrassed of how messy my office is. So let's see. Okay. So this is our lobby right here. Again, it's just kind of always set up for COVID testing and food distribution because we're not open for anything else. But the picture on the right, you'll notice there's a little chair there with a window. That's our customer service desk. And that's where folks can come in and register for a class, a program, or fill out a facility rental contract. And this is, again, my desk is the messy one, but a lot of people said Einstein had a messy desk too. So the three of us would have our desks here. And then as we see customers come up to the window, we can kind of jump up there to the counter where we have a separate computer that's just, always ready to help someone, face to face there. So just wanted to show you, that's what ours looks like.
Thank you. That's great.
We've got one reception area that's very small. We're hoping to blow it out so we can fit more people in it. And then just recreation only, there's 2 other staff members that are, purely recreation that are there. So like 3 office spaces for the non-senior staff that are there.
Great, thank you. Final questions, anyone, for our panel members? All right, well, this has been extremely helpful, very enlightening. I want to thank Michael and Eddie. Let's give you a round of applause for being part of the panel tonight. That's very helpful. Thank you so much. That ends our agenda item number 4. We're going to be moving on. Thank you both.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Item number 5, we're going to make very short. That is a report on the initial review of the old fire station as a community center. Either Nancy or Barbara, if you want to just give us a very quick update on where that stands.
I can do that really quick, Pat. I think most of the PAC members were at the board meeting a couple weeks ago where we reviewed this. But what's happening is the fire station, the contact with the head of the board of fire district suggested that they are going to, at some point, call it surplus real estate and put it on the market, but they don't have a timeline and it's not on the market yet. That means we have time to do some due diligence. A while back, they had a very kind of cursory look with an engineer on how sound is the building. Right now, the board is contracting with Rebecca Katkin Architecture to do a review just with the layout of the building and an understanding of what is in it now, an assessment of whether it would meet our needs and what that might look like. One of the things that Eddie said I found interesting is that the Ted Adcock Center is 6,000 square feet. The fire station is 33,680 square feet. And we worked with Rebecca. Barbara and I are the community center committee of the board. We worked with Rebecca on laying out what are all the things that we might want. And basically this is a combined Granada Community Services district office and community center. So we want to know, part of the advantage for the district is getting out from under having a lease for its offices. So if, we can do both in one place that we're building some equity in, that's important. So we need to know, is this building suitable to have both the district office, not, for the sewer and trash, the non-recreation focus, and parks and recreation. So we laid out kind of our must-haves and how much space they need. We looked at potentially 2 offices, one for the assistant general manager, one for potentially a parks and recreation coordinator. When we have a park and a recreation center, that could be a significant role. And a shared space with maybe 2 more people, the administrative assistant for the sewer and trash side, and maybe a recreation receptionist for the Parks and Rec side. What we found is the side of the building, if you stand in front of it and picture it, the left side, which is currently the training room, living space, kitchen, and so on for the fire station, is 1,280 square feet. And that side of the building is sufficient for the district offices and probably in addition some storage. And then the 2 truck bays, which I'm sad to say are not the right shape and dimension to fit a pickleball court, because the posts down the middle between the 2 bays are structural and have to stay. So one of the bays is 20 by 40 feet, the other one is 20 by 80 feet, but it's 2,400 square feet and it's a lot of space, and space that can be divided. At the back end of the large bay, there is a bathroom, so there's already plumbing there. So to make it quick, it would fit, say, on the staff side, all the offices that we envision as needed, a staff kitchen and bathroom, reception desk and office storage could all fit in that current fire station administrative space. And we said as must-haves, a craft classroom, which needs storage for stuff. A storage room, basically. I'm glad we heard a lot about storage because we kept pumping up the storage as we were having this meeting. I was thinking about the Ted Adcock Center with the big closets they have for tables and chairs and various things. A large community events room. We thought 800 to 1,200 square feet. A medium community events room, 400 to 600 square feet. And both of these would need to be, I think as Eddie said, useful for either recreation uses or meeting uses, so flexible. And the other must-have was a public bathroom. None of those things are out of the question. And outside, there's potential in the back of the building, potentially for some kind of court, and a little kind of with a windbreak. The building has a windbreak, a little bit of a outdoor recreation space there. Don't know if it's big enough for the kind of big multi-sport courts like they have at Cunha, but there's potential for something there beyond what we envision putting in the park. So far, we have not found hurdles either. She's also checking regulatory and building code type information, but it seems like with what we've defined as must-haves, there's ample space. And what Rebecca is just starting to do now is saying, okay, is this space sufficient for programming? You know, she's going to start blocking out these rooms in the space and see how useful the space is for the types of space we've said we need. But tonight's panel is really also informative and helpful. So probably Barbara and I will be meeting with Rebecca again soon. So I'll be coalescing some of what we heard tonight to feed into the programming. But so far, no hurdles. It's just not on the market, and we don't know when it will be on the market, but we think this leaves us time to do some good due diligence to make sure that it really would meet our needs. So we're kind of ready if it goes on the market, or when it goes on the market, if it ends up meeting our needs. No, and again, as somebody said, there's not a decision yet to do it. Still a lot of financial and other things to explore. Rick, did you have a question?
Yeah, were there any notes from the, I forget her name, but as far as the electrical service to the building, like the size? Or is that just getting into the weeds at this point?
That might be in the weeds, although it's supported fire station. So I read the engineer's report and I didn't see, he didn't find any particular hurdles for the type of use we're envisioning.
Okay.
This is very preliminary, obviously, but it's helpful. It's encouraging that there haven't been any huge hurdles identified so far. So
Lucy posted a question in the chat about zoning, and she's checked the zoning, and no hurdles there for the types of uses we envision. There's 2 types of zoning on the site, but neither one is a hurdle.
anyone on the PAC have one last question before we move off this topic? Okay, so we're done with item 5. We're going to move to item 6. Was wondering if Rick and Paul would give a very quick update on if anything has changed since the last board meeting, or a quick update on it, the pump track.
Yeah. Paul, did you get that email that I sent with the update?
Yes, I did. I mean, Rick has, I'd say, the most information. He emailed it out. But yeah, Rick, if you got it in front of you.
No, I don't. That's why I was stalling.
Go ahead. Oh. All right, I'll have to look through my email.
I'm looking for it here. Play some music or something. Talk amongst yourself.
So just a quick update. At the last district board meeting, there was a quite lengthy discussion about what the district board is supporting and the status of it going forward. Nicholas Calderon from the county said that he is moving forward with it and the proposal. Rick or Paul would be better,
Yeah.
or one of the
Yeah.
board members. Yes, Barbara, go ahead.
Well, let me just say that the board at its last meeting voted to enter into an agreement with county parks to provide up to $100,000 of financing for the construction of the project, and including a provision that the county would work to mitigate impacts on the neighborhood area around it. So a positive, I think, positive contribution from GCSD.
Right. I found my update notes here. So on 119, that's tonight, let's see here. We haven't had any meetings for a couple months. The online survey was and public feedback was completed. The Flying X design was chosen. The county is looking at adding 10 parking spots to the main lot and additional consideration giving to other traffic solutions. Nick attended the last board meeting with GCSD, and they agreed on the funding that was approved up to 100 grand. Construction final plans, they look to approve May or June, breaking ground in July, and hopefully completing in September. So that is the update as it stands for the pump track.
Any questions from PAC members?
Hi, I have a few additions that we're requesting. I've spoken to all the neighbors on the street on this block, and they all agree. We absolutely have to have more parking, and we want one side parking on the streets, parking on one side of the streets, Columbus and Santa Maria. It's very hard for many to get out of their freeways when, their driveways when parking on both sides of the street.
Right.
And,
so Nick has said that he's willing to look into more parking solutions.
yeah.
And that the county is separate for parking as far as one-way parking or anything of that nature. So that has to be brought up with the county and not the Parks Department. But he said he's willing to look into bringing that conversation forward.
Right. So I'm glad for that.
Is that
let's
Public
see.
Works, Rick? That she would want to follow up with Public Works?
I don't know. Nick never really answered which county department that was.
Okay.
Public Works.
Pretty sure he said Public Works, or that sounds right.
Yeah,
So,
and
order, right?
we probably need one of the neighbors suggested putting a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on the streets because cars come speeding in and out, and he figures it's just going to be an accident waiting to happen. I think Nancy suggested a stop sign coming out of the parking lot, and that's a good idea too.
Yeah, Nick actually wondered why there wasn't one there now. So
yeah, and so let's see what else. Columbus, Santa Maria. Oh, well, somebody else suggested also that maybe we have, if we need more parking, maybe the county would have to talk to the school district and see if we couldn't use their parking lot for a lot of people that drive in, and then they ride the bikes down to the park rather than everybody trying to park up here if they can't provide more parking.
yeah, I can't speak to the hikers, but I know as far as a community of the biking community, when we have guests from out of town, we actually ask them not to park there because of the neighborhood concerns. We actually, if I invite friends or if I have people coming from Half Moon Bay, we park at the school already, or we park on the neighboring street. So that's something the community, the mountain biking community is already doing, but the hiking and the rest of the birthday parties probably are still going to be in front of your house there.
So. Oh yeah, that's why we need to find other areas to park. And why
they-
they need to
Another parking lot for Corey Park.
increase it. Pardon me?
I think they should have another parking lot somewhere, you know,
Yes, I do too.
over by the, Murata East.
Yep. I've suggested that. I don't know if they ever will, but
Right. Bathroom.
I think we strayed off the pump track topic here.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, let's, I gotta go to bed.
okay. I guess that's pretty much it. I'm thinking too, eventually, they probably are going to need to have a full-time ranger watching over in this area with all the activities going on. I think it's time for a full-time ranger. And
There'll be more meetings for the master plan, from what I understand.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Fran. Anybody else real quick on this item, agenda item? Looks like we're good to go. We're making huge progress. We'll be the first broken ground on any recreation facility since we started the district and PAC. So I'm excited about that. Nancy or Barbara, a very quick update on Burnham Park. What's next?
We're continuing to work with K&K, our designers, on finalizing and preparing the plans for submittal to the county for our environmental permits and for our coastal permit, all our county permits. It's going to be a long process, and there's going to be a lot more opportunity for public input. But after more than 2 years of community input, we feel as if we have a good plan. We have a biological, we are also working with some environmental consultants to provide some background on the constraints on the property. And now we are taking that and working with the Resource Conservation District to make sure that we have a really solid plan that's going to be really great for the site. So lots of good things happening, and nothing's going to happen for a little bit because I think it's going to take another couple months for us to get the plan ready to go to the county. And then once it goes to the county, there will be more reports, more studies, and more opportunities for public input. So it's going to take us a while to get it permitted, but we have a design that's after all that community input, and we're excited about seeing it move forward.
Barbara and Nancy, how could the PAC assist in this effort for the park?
I think probably a bit later in the process, because right now it's really in the hands of the designers and the submittal. But then when it comes time to do some of the review processes, we'll need your help. And then we are getting the uses permitted, but not the details. So I envision that in the future, we will need community input on what's going to go in the playground. So we're going to get approval for a playground. Then we'll have to submit a design for the playground. We'll have to have a landscape plan. And while we know broadly that there's going to be some areas that are the village green, and then there's going to be a lot of natural habitat areas, but we haven't figured out plant palettes for those. There's going to be choosing bike racks and picnic tables and lots of details like that I can see the PAC being involved in giving us, helping us make sure that we're listening to the community and choosing the best options. What does the entry plaza look like? What do the seat walls look like? There's just going to be lots of design details that are separate from the uses, which are what we're going to be taking to the county for permitting. So
Great.
we're going to need you.
All right. Well, thanks, Barbara and Nancy. It is really a pleasure. It's so helpful to have both of you involved as board members in the PAC committee meeting here. It's really great. Thank you for being here. Okay, we're moving on to the next agenda item, number 8. Summer recreation programs for the district in a brochure. It appears that there is not going to be much happening this summer. in terms of recreation programs. That may change if COVID allows us to, and so forth. But the district does not have a recreation staff person coordinator, and the virus situation is so tenuous that we're not quite sure what's gonna happen. That's my opinion. What about PAC members? Should the district start to help plan some? Michelle?
No, I think it's just not viable as somebody who would be doing first aid and stuff like that, gearing up for something that, spending all the time organizing it and everything, and then, having it switch and change. Having said that, though, first aid is what I was teaching. I'm working with a guy, his name is Paul Feldman. He's part of the KEEP, and the KEEP meeting, the chamber, VOAD for emergency preparedness. And he has found 11 people who teach first aid on the coast. And we're trying to figure out, I'm medic, he is American Heart Association, and then there's Red Cross. And we're trying to figure out like a hybrid, do stuff online, and maybe we send you a Manny, and then there's digital interfaces that are being used right now, and the hospitals are using a lot of AI. At our level, we don't have access to that type of thing, but I think within the next year, you will find that will evolve. So I'm working on that end, just in terms of seeing if we can get first aid being taught again.
Yeah, and is there kind of along those lines, Michelle, like in terms of doing maybe something online, beach safety's been a big issue this year. If you've been following, what's happened, we've lost quite a few people, it seems like. And it's not locals, it's people that come to the area because of COVID. And maybe towards the fall, when we go back into the season where we get a lot of dangerous, we could do some kind of and advertise it broadly to the Bay Area for people that are coming and don't know anything about the swells and all the dangers and the rip currents and what to do, and do some online options and get some, some of our big wave people or somebody. Michelle, you probably know a lot of them.
I used to run the Mavericks Invitational Titans. I mean, for 10 years, I ran the volunteers for Mavericks. So in my early days, Cassandra said, can you find like 200 people to, volunteer for the contest? And I thought, yeah, I think I can. And what I did is I reached out to the Fitzgerald Marine Preserve people. I mean, it was just like a slam dunk. They already wanted to protect, they were already trained. And so that was just kind of like the beginning. So I am actually working with one of my buzzers. She got really emotionally involved with the loss of the 12-year-old, and she wanted to do something. And she's single, she doesn't have kids, she's got some time, and she's also a project manager for Slack, so she's got all of these skills and everything like that. We are going to be launching the Coastside Beach Ambassador team.
Well, that's awesome.
If you're on Instagram, I did an Instagram post, and I had a bunch of people say, oh, I want to do that. And I think if we harness the CERT people, I know I've got people in Kenyatta Cove that they're CERT crazy, and they're also COVID mad because they can't get out and do CERT stuff. Well, here's going to be an opportunity for them to be able to do, helping people right on the beach. It's going to be a 3-prong attack. It's going to be, I've already talked to Steve Stockman at the Coastside Fire Protection District, because I was on their board meeting last week, and he is totally down with it. In fact, I see him at the state parks on the coastal trail, and he waves me down. I mean, how do people come to my office? And he says, oh yes, I'm here because I'm trying to talk to the state park people to try to coordinate them on rogue waves and riptides and stuff like that. So Stephanie and I, we are going to be putting together something on Coastside Buzz, to your point. We're going to create a QR code for a series of posts that will be under Coastside Beach Ambassadors. And we'll have a post. She's doing an introductory post on what it is and the general idea about it. There's going to be a scheduling tool. There's a post that I've already posted, but I'll be posting it within this menu bar on rip tides and currents. Just a series of like 4 or 5 videos that get you into the ballpark in terms of rogue wave. I got the Mavericks video with the 2010 rogue wave. So my feeling as an instructional designer is that you are not going to solve this problem with signs. You're only going to solve it with people. So if I can get Coastside Fire Protection District to put the logo on the garbage bags, and if I can get the city of Half Moon Bay to put their logo on the garbage bags, the MO will be, we have a free garbage bag to offer. So you have a family that's sitting on the beach, they're barbecuing, they're doing their own thing, and we come up and we interrupt them. But we interrupt them with, we're giving something free to you. And we're gonna have 2 sizes of garbage bags because, you know, if you're talking to a couple, you don't want to give them a big, you know, 30-gallon bag, is, you know, they're gonna put mostly plastic. We're also gonna get decomposed, compostable garbage bags, working with Sea Hugger already. And we walk up and you say, hey, you know, we got this whole pack it out thing that we're trying to promote. And by the way, did you know about the road waves? We'll have a little, you know, card that has a QR code. Could you just take a picture of the QR code so when you get home, you can look at this stuff and maybe pass it on to your friends? And that's it. We move on, give another garbage bag out, QR code, and that's how we educate people. So that's my idea.
Yeah, we may be able to do
GCS,
some course through
how can GCSD help in that?
We on the email list, we will put once we get the posts all sorted out, we are going to put it out on social media, and hopefully we can put it out through the GCSD email as well. I've already got a volunteer in we're going to do it by neighborhood, just like CERT. So I've got somebody in Miramar who's already chomping at the bit. I got people at Kenyatta Cove that are chomping at the bit. I've got people that want to take on the Mavericks, you know, that are chomping at the bit. So the more people that we get involved, the better. So yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Rick.
That sounds awesome. Hey, so I had you know, we're not doing any of the community programs like the hook and loop or the needlepoint or any of the youth activities of that nature. Can we pivot on that and do like an online based, I know my kids don't need more screen time by any means, but some sort of maybe like scavenger hunt for local kids, or something like that that could get them outdoors? Or is there any say we could curate an activity that would be outdoors and recreational, but yet independent at the same time? Like, go find these 3 birds, go find and post these pictures of this particular native plant. I mean, there's really a lot of ways to get them outdoors, but do it remotely. You know, there's a whole bunch of historical sites and random plaques throughout El Granada that, you know, I've shown my kids many times and made them read them, and they hate me for it. But there's, you know, all kinds of fun stuff that you could make them move their little legs and put down their screens for a few minutes and get some vitamin D. I think maybe since we're not spending the time and effort, you know, bringing kids in and doing that sort of thing, we could probably pivot there. Or at least, you know, make an attempt.
You can almost do some kind of geocache thing too, you know, and be creative around that, where everybody won't go at once, but they can be outdoors with their families doing something.
Yeah, completely independent, not group oriented.
Yeah.
Now, I like that. Now, I think that if you got a younger person, maybe a college student, you know, talking about whether or not we fill the thing, I bet Pat's got somebody in his class, and just say, hey, look, we want to do this digitally. I mean, I've been working with Sophia Lane and a couple of other people, trying to get them to see, like, Coastside Land Trust. They have brilliant biologic videos. I mean, once a week. I mean, they're world class, you know, videos on raptors and things like that. And I share them, you know, but that's something that GCSD and Coastside Buds, all of us can curate. I was a homeschooler, so I really don't do school curriculum. I like to do world curriculum. And Peninsula Open Space Trust, they've had the Amundsen tribe, you know, on, and they've done a series with that. They've done shipwrecks. I mean, if your kid is older than like 10, everything that's on Post, everything that's on CLT is accessible. And so I also think that if you've got a kid that is older than 14, they should be coming to these meetings.
Just a lesson of civics.
I was going to say, Rick, you read my mind, and Michelle, some of you know I teach recreation at San Francisco State University, and we have students, and by the way, they're in very high demand around the country for they put on virtual recreation programs. And they've started doing this since COVID. And if the PAC thinks this is a wise thing to do, and it sounds like it, I would be willing to reach out to several of them that I work with to see if they would be willing to put together a program and a class, online program, such as what you're talking about. Could be a scavenger hunt related to the community resources and attractions. It could be more of a pure recreation. That's what they're doing right now. They're doing most of their online program with college students to help bring them out of their depression with all this no jobs being available for college graduates and everything else. If you think that would be worth pursuing, because the key thing here is who's going to do it.
Right.
So if you think it's worth doing and you want to support me on this, then I will reach out to my department and my students to see if I can find one of them that could do one activity that we could say is sponsored by the district. It would have to be vetted, you know, and developed, but you know, that would be something that's a win-win, because it would build their resume, give them more experience, to say they're working with a district, you know, and so on and so forth. And it would provide something that we can do as a district that would show us as a modern, up-to-date recreation program. So what do you think?
If I had one activity, I love Rick's treasure hunt activity, because you can hunt pretty much anything, whether it's geocaching. So one of my side hustles pre-COVID was I worked for Half Moon Bay Coastside Tours, and I would take people on treasure hunts. Mary Corcoran, she was the one that would organize these treasure hunts, and we had one historical treasure hunt with it that was in Half Moon Bay, and we had another one that was in Pillar Point Harbor. So that's just a starting point. I mean, those are, you know, mostly sort of historical sort of treasure hunts. But to your point, you could do bird hunts. You could do all kinds of things, you know. So I would be happy to work with this student, because I see this as an aggregating business that will go on post-COVID. I think online treasure hunts will become a huge thing. I can't tell you how popular they are, you know, amongst adults when you're doing corporate team building, but you can do it with families. You can do it with all kinds of things. So I think I love the idea.
Yeah, we've had similar proposals on the mountain bike side, where we put QR codes at certain locations, and they scan them and they get a card. If you're familiar with the poker run sort of thing that a lot of the clubs do. So basically we would have these QR codes scattered throughout the coast side, and some of the higher value cards were the furthest places away and the hardest to reach on the mountain bikes. We've had this discussion statewide on a different level about how to get kids to replace group rides and group activities and then create solo events. So I've seen this in the corporate world with the scavenger hunts, with the virtual QR or the virtual geocaching. But similarly, yeah, I'd be willing to support this, definitely.
I'd like to make a suggestion to remind everybody, all the parents, that bring your kids up to the tot lot area above the couple of acres above the tot lot. It's there to play sports. Start teaching the kids. There have been teams that have come up, and one teacher I've seen bring the little kids, teaching them how to play soccer. You can play football, you can play or just throw and catch, baseball, frisbee, flying kites. I've seen all of that is done up there, but not often. You could bring the kids up and do that kind of thing. Parents, get out with the kids and do that.
Well, Fran, it's good. One of the other techniques that's used by California state parks, is you take pictures of certain things and send them back, and then you get points that go towards a total. And once you get a certain amount of points, then you receive an online award of some sort. So there's a number of ways that you can get people outdoors as a family or as solo persons to try to do this. And Scavenger hunts certainly are one of them, but you know, we have some experience at SF State on helping with the state program. So it's certainly worth exploring, I think.
As an alternative to the classes we normally held, yes, I think it'd be a great alternative. Could the funding that we were using for classes maybe go into any sort of COVID awareness or COVID safety education? Or I don't know if we can do anything with the vaccinations. That's really on the state and the county level, but is there any sort of way we can help out with the communities? I know with the VA, I've worked with them as far as offering my ride services to get veterans that can't drive to go get their vaccinations. That's something I'm doing right now, but is there anything that we can offer?
I understand, Rick, the restriction on our funding is it has to be recreation focused.
Okay.
So, you know, what you described as the scavenger hunts and stuff, that's something we could fund, but not just general community wellness.
Okay.
Nancy and Barbara, I do have a question for you. That would be a big factor if we were to do any kind of online proposal. And I know you can't answer it as the board, but just a maybe kind of is it potentially possible, Delia, Nancy, Barbara, to have a student get a stipend, a small fixed amount for putting together a online recreation program? Barbara, yeah.
I think it's possible. I think given the staffing situation now and the constraints of COVID and so forth, perhaps there could be a subcommittee of the PAC or someone to work with, with the person who was going to put this together to help organize it and make sure that things were taken care of. I mean, I think that the option of a very specific contractor to provide one program would work. It's a lot more complicated now to hire contract people than it used to be because of the new legislation. But I think, putting together a one-time program is probably doable. But then again, somebody has to supervise it and vet it and so forth. So we can look at that and talk more about it. I like your ideas. I think others on the board, I see Nancy nodding her head too. So if we could make something work, why don't you keep exploring it and see what the options are? But I am aware of staff constraints as well.
I don't know, Barbara and Nancy, just real quickly, is it helpful for something like this for PAC to make a motion? Does that make any difference, or is just you being here listening to this discussion enough, or should we have a motion on it?
In my experience, it's less about whether, because it's an advisory board, having a motion or resolution, and more making better use of the time on a board meeting to make proposals from PAC. As long as you have consensus on it. I think that's the value of making a motion, is basically you have consensus that it's something PAC is bringing forward versus an individual. For the board, if you come to the board meeting and say this is part of the parks report and this is our idea, it doesn't really matter whether it was a motion or not.
I think what really matters is if you bring it to the board that it's more than just an idea. It's got some specifics of how it would work and so forth. Some ideas of what the funding needs would be. That I think.
That's good advice. I'm hearing from the PAC members that they think the idea of an online program, one online program that could possibly be developed by SFSU student for possibly a stipend might be something that you want to do, that you could support. Is anybody opposed to that? And is everybody in favor of that? Could we just go around and, it's good we don't have to, as they said, you don't have to have a motion, but Fran, it sounded like you were supportive of that idea.
Yeah,
is that right?
Say again exactly what you mean.
Would you be supportive of an development of the idea of online treasure hunt type of program that would be developed with a SFSU student who would be paid possibly paid a stipend. All this would be approved by the board and so on. But would you be supportive of that idea?
Yes.
Rick, how about you?
What would be the end goal or our main objectives of this scavenger hunt? Are we looking to educate? Are we looking to them burn some calories? Are we what are we looking to do? A brief synopsis of what you'd like to expect out of it.
I don't think that's been determined yet. Maybe we can look at alternatives for that. So
Okay,
one could
okay.
be a physical activity, one could be just pure fun, one could be focused more towards an
Recreation.
audience. Yeah, recreation fun. That's so. I don't think we've determined that.
Okay, okay. I am definitely in favor of any of those actually. So I just was curious.
Michelle is nodding her head yes. Suzanne is nodding her head. Am I missing anybody else? I think that's everybody. So I will, it sounds like I will go ahead and contact some students and my department colleagues and see if we can come up with a student's interest in working with us on this. So more.
What is
to
our
come.
timeline? We had a timeline for the newsletters and such that we had to get things out before, right? Or is that, I know Claudia worked hard on getting all those things out.
I don't think we have any of that developed yet. That's a good point, Rick.
Okay.
Would that be something the co-chair could lead up?
Yes.
Rick?
You're breaking up.
Okay, Rick has volunteered. No, just kidding. But so I'll move forward on that. Anything else on recreation programs for item number 8? Okay, item number 9, organization of a PAC schedule and work plan. I guess since I'm chair, I'm going to do that. I would like to meet with the board members and district board and try to see what they have in store for us. Another alternative that Nancy mentioned is that the PAC and the board may have a joint meeting where the board could enlighten us and we could have a discussion, but what could the board do, what could the PAC do to assist the board? And I think we're all busy people, and unless we meet in the same room, virtual room at the same time, we're not going to be very coordinated and cohesive. So let me reach out to my esteemed board members to see if that's possible, if they want to do that. But look for that maybe next meeting, kind of where we want to go and some ideas. And please send me your ideas about what you think the PAC should be doing in the next year. I think that's critical. It's got to come from all of us as well. We can't put it on the board to give us what to do. So please do that. Any ideas and thoughts on that topic? Okay. Well, I think.
Can I ask a quick question, Pat? Do you guys have a future meeting scheduled at all for the rest of the year? I'm asking.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I don't have it right at my fingertips, but I've sent it around to the PAC members, and I believe you were CC'd, but I'll send that to you.
If you could re-forward it, because I don't remember seeing it, and PCTV had just asked for advance dates.
Okay.
So it'd be nice to have. Thank you.
I'll send it to you and everybody.
I believe that was favoring Mondays, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got the dates. I've sent it to you all. I will resend. Okay. Hey, we finished earlier than I thought we would. How about that?
Lucy has a question.
Yes. Oh, Lucy. Yes.
Hi. Could you also post those dates on your website? I'm having a hard time finding exactly when this group meets.
That's a good idea. I'll do that.
And
okay,
if
I'll
maybe
put a meeting schedule for everything on there.
Great, and maybe if there's a change to it, I know at the end of each agenda, maybe saying next meeting date.
Lucy, are you on the list? Are you on the list to get the agendas? Did you
I'm
get
not
one?
sure what the list is, but I am happy to.
Okay, I have a list,
give you
and
my
if you
contact
give me your
information.
email, if you send me your email, I'll put you on automatically to get the agendas every time they're generated, so.
That would be great. Yeah, I mean, I just as a new member of trying to practice, even the Zoom link today on the agenda was wrong that was posted on the website. So that's me. I think Dan Haggerty and I both ended up on just a
Yeah, Dan's
Zoom
on it, so.
together.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so the agenda that you have posted online has the wrong Zoom link, so just wanted to flag that as well. That I'm not sure if there's other people that are.
Yeah, I went there first as well.
That's why
Yeah,
I
so-
send out it doesn't turn into a link when you copy it onto the agenda. So that's why I'm sending out a separate following email with just a clickable link for the meeting.
Great.
So,
Julia, I'll drop my personal email address into the chat for you. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
adding me to this
Okay,
infamous list. I
sounds
look
good.
forward to it. Thank you.
thanks.
Yeah, I wanted to remind the public and Lucy, for example, that the PAC has one opening, and we are looking to fill this position. And so if you want to make a difference in the community and help kids and seniors and adults and everybody, then this might be a good opportunity for you to do that. So please just send Delia an email, and she can give you all the appropriate information. And Delia, why don't you give us your email address that these people would send to?
I just wanted to note that the PAC application is on the parks website,
Okay, good.
.gov/parks.
Yeah, it's D Comito, D like David, COMITO at granada.ca.gov.
Great. Thank you, Delia. So the application is on the Granada Community Services District park page, right, Nancy? And you can also email Delia directly, and she can set you up with the information, the application. So with that,
One more.
yes, Michelle.
So I was, to Lucy's point and Dan's point, I went online to the GCSD website, and there's not, on the home page, there should be something in the banner, the photo banner, a link that says, sign up for GCSD emails. And then when somebody clicks on that, Delia can sign them up for Parks and Recs and GCSD and whatever else that we might be sending out.
I agree.
That's a big hole. So
Good
thanks.
suggestion.
I thought we had that somewhere on the website.
Somewhere it's got to be on the home page.
On the homepage, okay, I can
Yeah.
do that.
User
I
friendly.
think, Delia, we had the idea, but I'm not sure it ever got done.
Right, but we'll get it done now.
Anything else for the good of the order?
I think it's bedtime.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Does
Good
anybody
meeting.
want to make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Bedtime.
And seconded,
You don't
all in
need a second.
favor, aye. And
Third.
opposed, we're ready to go. Thank you very much, everybody.
Great meeting.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good meeting.
Thanks.
Good night.